The New York Yankees reportedly have mutual interest with Walker Buehler in a potential free agent agreement, according to John Morosi of MLB Network. Now, I'm going to say a couple of things before I continue to talk about this video. Number one, for as much as John Morosi is a credible MLB reporter and someone who has broken news, I think it is important to always look at a report that doesn't have corroborating reports, such as one from John Heyman, or Jack Curry, or Jeff Passan, etc., and wonder if maybe that's a leak from an agent, or maybe it's just, not as reliable. I think that you want to have multiple sources or multiple reports saying something before you really buy into it. But nonetheless, Morosi is a major league reporter. He is someone that I think is pretty credible for the most part. I know the Ohtani stuff kind of hurt his reputation, but there's that. And I would also like to add on top of that this is all, just me talking about what I think would work with Buehler. I don't know what his contract would look like. Obviously, all of this stuff is dependent on the contract he gets, and there's nothing of a framework of a deal being discussed. There is no reports that the Yankees are close to an agreement or anything of the sort. So I just want to clarify that and kind of give you guys extra context on top of that report, because I don't want to mislead anyone. I don't want anyone to feel like they're being told one thing and being completely misinformed. So all of that stuff out of the way, let's talk a little bit about Walker Buehler, and let's talk a little bit about why the Yankees would have interest in him. Now, this past season was disappointing for Walker Buehler, to say the very least. He had a 5.38 ERA in 16 starts with an 18.6% strikeout rate and had a 1.91 home runs per nine and allowed. I mean, he just wasn't very good. He wasn't missing bats. He allowed tons of damage contact. His fastball was not as good as it was pre-injury. He just didn't look very good. So, I think there's an immediate, all right, this guy was a below average starting pitcher in 2024. Why would the New York Yankees import them onto their roster? So the reason for that, in my opinion, would be Walker Buehler has a good amount of upside, and I think that late in the season we saw an uptick in his fastball vertical movement, and that is really important to me. You see, fastballs and your four-seam fastball or your primary fastball, whatever your main fastball is if you're a pitcher, that pitch is extremely important to the rest of your arsenal. Typically speaking, your secondaries are built off of your four-seam fastball or work in tandem with your four-seam fastball or your primary fastball of choice. Think of someone like Clay Holmes. His sinker-slider combination works because his sinker has that downward tumbling action and moves into righties and away from lefties, while his sweeper and gyro slider move down and either prioritize downward movement with his gyro slider or horizontal movement to the opposite direction of his sinker if that's his sweeper. So they work in tandem with, they have synergy with his primary fastball. Walker Buehler's curveball is the pitch that typically has the best synergy with his four-seam fastball, but it is a pitch that also saw a reduction in pitch movement this past season on top of his four-seam fastballs. Both those pitches lost multiple inches of vertical movement. His fastball had less ride, so it dropped a little more as it went to the zone. That's not great. And his curveball dropped a little bit less and moved a little less horizontally as well. So it's not moving as much. It's not as deceptive. When two pitches that tend to play well off of each other get worse, that is a really big problem for a starting pitcher, especially when those two pitches are arguably his first and second best pitches in his repertoire. His cutter remained a really strong pitch in 2024, and I think that's really encouraging because his cutter is a strong pitch. The Yankees develop cutters well. The Yankees do believe in aggressive cutter usage. Look at Carlos Rodon, Nestor Cortez, Garrett Cole, Clark Schmidt. I mean, 4 of their 5 starters or projected starters for the 2025 season have cutters, and their 6th starter, Marcus Stroman, also has a cutter. The stuff plus in his cutter did drop from 121 in 2021 to 103 in 2024, but still, it had good results, and I think, to me, that, at the very least, that's encouraging, right? Like, that is a pitch that didn't get dramatically worse in terms of results. It may have gotten dramatically worse in terms of pitch shape, but it still plays well with the rest of his arsenal. It's still an above average pitch. The four-seam fastball and the curveball did see massive reductions in terms of pitch quality. A 118 stuff plus to a 100 stuff plus, with his WOBA going to 346 in the curveball this year is really bad. Batters had an above average WOBA against his curveball. They were above average hitters against that pitch. That's not good. His fastball stuff plus in 2021 dropped from 115 to 85. That is nearly 2 standard deviations. I believe that is actually 2 standard deviations of a decrease in stuff plus. That is massive, right? So for those who aren't aware as to what going down 2 standard deviations would mean, we're going to use the 2080 scale as kind of a level of explanation here, because that's a pretty universal baseball scale. standard deviation, usually it's 3 up, 3 down, and then your medium. You have 80, 70, 60, 50. 50 is the median. That's the average player. 40, 30, 20. 20 is the worst. 80 is the best. In this situation, we're talking about a player, let's say, going from like a 60 to like a 40, right? So like a 60 grade fastball, a 70 grade fastball, going to like a 50 or a 40 grade fastball. That's not very good. That's really bad for a starting pitcher, especially, again, when that's your primary fastball. He added a sinker. He relied a little more on his sinker this year than years past. It was a solid pitch for him. I think it's a pitch the Yankees can get more out of. It had really good damage prevention qualities to it. It kept the ball on the ground. They struggled to barrel that pitch. That's really encouraging. That means maybe there's something the Yankees can do there to kind of mask the fact that his four-seamer isn't as good. He developed a sweeping slider. That sweeping slider has been a really good pitch for him, especially late in the season. It had +2 run value, and it generated a good amount of swing and miss. The Yankees are a big believer in the sweeping slider. I wonder if they have him prioritize using that pitch against right-handed batters to get swings and misses, especially on top of that sinker, and with the cutter as well. I mean, sinker, cutter, sweeper guys are usually pitchers who have a lot of success because they're able to get movement down and in. They're usually able to get that movement away with the sweeper and cutter. If you invert that to lefties, Buehler's able to go with the four-seamer and the curveball. And that cutter is also a blend pitch for the four-seamer and the curveball as well. So that cutter being good is really important because it's either his second or third pitch against lefties or righties. It's always part of his arsenal. It's always a prominent part of his pitch repertoire. So having that pitch remain consistent is important for him to make sure he has at least 3 reliable pitches that can play to either side of the plate. Now, those are a lot of complex things, and I know that I'm kind of getting into a lot of nerd pitching talk here, but it's important to know that, pitching is a complex subject. Pitching is very subjective. You'll hear a lot of people who can give you discerning opinions on why Buehler can't get better in 2025. I think there are reasons to believe that Buehler can't get better in 2025. The fact that he got worse this year and the fact that, you can't prove he's just going to improve his pitch quality or that he's going to improve with just being healthy. Those are things that I think are important to know. There's a reason why, the Yankees didn't bring back Luis Severino last year and why I didn't believe it was a bad move to let him go. Because he's someone who needed to improve. He's someone who needed to show that he was a better pitcher than the year prior. He had to prove that, right? And Buehler's going to have to prove that. But I think the Yankees are, number one, a good organization for developing pitchers. They are a very modern organization in terms of pitching development. They are a change of scenery for Buehler. I think that's also going to be productive for him. And finally, I really do think having a healthy offseason and a normal offseason is important for a pitcher. Look at Carlos Rodon, look at the aforementioned Luis Severino, look at Nestor Cortez. Those are guys who had disrupted 2023 seasons. They did not pitch in spring training. They did not pitch at the end of spring training. They did not pitch to start the year. They came back and they were dealing with injuries and they were on and off the IL and they really struggled. The year after, they're able to spend the offseason strictly training. They're not rehabbing or nursing anything. They're just getting back to action and they're able to have strong years. I think that it helped them develop pitches as well. Cortez developed better field of his changeup. Rodon did as well. Severino was able to work on that sinker and really make it a solid pitch for him. And Walker Buehler profiles as someone who could pitch a little more like a Luis Severino, where Severino developed the third fastball and has 3 different fastballs and has a sweeper. Buehler's the same way. He has 3 different fastballs. He has a sweeper. The big difference here is that I think Buehler has leg up because he has a curveball, and Severino had like a mediocre changeup last year, and his slider is very similar to his sweeper. So, he may have been a 2-slider guy, but his slider didn't really differentiate much from his sweeper in terms of movement profiles. And honestly, I think Buehler's a better bet to stay healthy. His big injury was a UCL tear. UCL tears don't indicate they're not really predictive in terms of future UCL tears. I also think the Yankee defense, I know that that's been a big subject of conversation, but I think the Yankee defense can aid Buehler in being more of a ground ball guy, which he has been this past season. He had a 45% ground ball rate. That's the highest in a full season he's had since his rookie year when he had a 50% ground ball rate. This is a guy who can keep the ball on the ground and miss some bats. If he strikes out, 24 or 23% of batters faced and has a decent walk rate, that ground ball rate could buoy him to at least, like a 4, maybe 3.9 ERA. If the strikeout rate's closer to 25%, maybe he's putting up a great year. Maybe he's getting down ballot Cy Young votes. So the ability to miss bats may not be there, but the requirement to miss bats isn't as strong as it's been in years past. So I think that's important as well. I was truly impressed by his postseason performance. His stuff improved dramatically. I know that adrenaline plays a role in that, but it carried over from a strong finish to his regular season. I wonder if the Yankees identified that as a reason why they may have some interest in him. Personally, I just think Buehler has the stuff to do it. I think he has a deep pitch mix. You have 5 pitches that you can command well. You have 5 pitches that have distinct movement profiles. You have 5 pitches that I think can be average to above average, if not great in some regards, especially talking about his curveball and sweeper. That's encouraging to me. That, to me, indicates that this is a starting pitcher who can have success in the modern game. I think pitch depth and repertoire depth are really important. You need to have a bunch of pitches. You can't just be a 2-pitch pitcher unless you have 2 of the best pitches in the sport and start reliably, in my opinion. Look at Nestor Cortez. Look at Carlos Rodon. Again, I point back to them because those are guys who converted from 2-pitch pitchers to mixing it up a little bit. Cortez throws his sweeper a little more. He relies on a changeup a lot more. Rodon is someone who relies on his curveball, who relies on his changeup, even mixes in the cutter a little bit. Being a pitcher who's more unpredictable and has good stuff and can synergize and command well. These are all positive traits. Buehler's command has always been above average. Command has never been an issue for him either, so that's really encouraging for me as well. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I think I'd sign Buehler to a 1-year, $13 million deal. That's the same deal Luis Severino got last year. You give him a second year with a buyout. The buyout would guarantee him, let's say, $4 or $5 million extra dollars and allow him to hit free agency if the Yankees decide to decline it. If Buehler picks it up, or if it could be a mutual option. So if Buehler picks it up, the Yankees decline it, it's a buyout. If Buehler declines it, the Yankees pick it up. It's just a normal declined offer. The Yankees have to pay him a buyout. It gives them more guaranteed money, and it also gives the Yankees a chance to, not have to pay him if he's bad at 2025. But again, let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think that would make sense? Do you think Buehler makes sense for the Yankees? I'd love to know your thoughts and perspectives down below. We love you guys so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you guys' support. You guys have been great. We love you guys so much. Let's go Yankees. Let's hope that the Yankees can bring back Soto so I can stress about something else and talk about these free agents and not be so worried about whether it's, Soto's coming back or not. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys in the next one. Let's go Yankees. Peace out, everybody.
Perfect.